In the past lesson, we used something we never used before. We used this ID right here, and we have been using classes the whole time. So let's take a look at the difference between IDs and classes. For that, let's use our friends over here at W3 Schools. Then we're going to say okay, here we go. So we have ID and class selectors. Okay, so an ID selector. The ID selector is used to specify a style for a single unique element. And we have the ID selector uses the ID attribute of the HTML element is defined with a hashtag. So we've already gone through that. Class selector. The class selector is used to specify a style for a group of elements. Unlike the ID selector, the class selector is most often used in several elements. So what can we take from this? First of all, IDs are used for unique elements. Class selectors are used on multiple elements. So let's look at our code. So for instance, we have class container. So container is here as well. We have class homepage. Homepage is here as well. Class column medium 4. We use that a lot. So basically, whenever you are styling a certain HTML element, and it's going to have recurring styling elements. In other words, there's going to be another element. So say for a div, in this case, we'll say div, that's going to have similar styling elements to the current div you're working on. You want to give it a class. If it has unique styling elements, so there's not going to be any other HTML element. So for this, if there's no other div that's going to have the styling elements that we're going to put in this div, then you give it an ID, as we did here. So no other div we've talked about yet has this background color that the get involved div has. So we went ahead and gave it an ID. Now, number 2 is that earlier in the course, we talked about CSS specificity. And IDs are way more specific than classes. And so what does that mean? In other words, if you give something an ID, the CSS rules on that are going to take a much greater priority than a class. So let's go down here. Let's say this educators tag right here. I'm going to give it ID educator. Save that. Now I'm going to go up here, and remember we've said that any homepage H3 gets a font size of 26 pixels. It also has this certain font family and this color. So I'm going to override both this font size and this color here. Font size 30 pixels. Color black. Let's go ahead and say text transform under lowercase. All right, so we have this ID of educator, and then you have this class of homepage with any H3. So that's pretty specific. It's not only saying any class of homepage, it's also saying all H3s in that. Now let's go over here to our page and see what shows up. All right, so it's black, it's got the font size of 30 pixels, and it's lowercase. So you can see here that IDs take a much higher priority in CSS. So if you want to be real specific on something and make sure the styling's on it and it's a unique HTML element, give it an ID. Another benefit of an ID is linking. So this whole time, throughout the course, we've had these who are we links up here and the get involved link up here. You've probably been wondering when we're ever going to use it. So let's look at this now. First of all, get involved. So what I want to do is I want to link this link right here to this section right here. So if you've ever seen like on a site that has a real, what we call a tower page, so it's real tall, taller than this page we're creating, and they have these links up here, well, they don't want you to leave this page. So they put links to different sections of this page up here. So that's what we're doing. we want this get involved when you click on that to take us down here. So let's go over to our code, and we've given this div an ID of get involved. So what we can do is come up here and say hashtag get involved. So this is another type of link. We've talked about absolute links, where you start off with HTTP. We've talked about relative links, where you give it a path relative to where this link is in the file structure, and now we're giving it this ID link. So it tells us, what ID to go to on the page. So save this. Now let's go over here. Let's click this get involved, and it takes us down here. Now we'll make it so that it's a smoother transition later, but for now, just know that that link's down here. Another just side note is that, say you had this get involved section on the grid.html document up there, so you could do this as well. So it doesn't have to be on the current page. But for now, we're going to keep it on this current page. Save that, and now let's do this who we are section. So let's indent this div here. Div ID equals who. In the div. So we're not going to give this any specific styling here. We're just going to use it for the benefits of linking. So we're going to do hashtag who. Now we can come up here, reload the page, see it goes to the who we are section. All right. So what can we take away from IDs and classes? Well, one, we want to use IDs when it's a unique HTML element. You're not going to have another one like it in terms of styling. We want to use classes when it's going to be repetitive styling. So you're going to have other HTML elements with similar styling attributes to that one. So you can use classes so that it's easy to change. All you got to do is make one change in CSS over here, and it applies to everything. Say we make a change in homepage, it applies to every div with a class of homepage, or HTML element with a class of homepage. All right, and then IDs also come with this benefit of being able to link to certain parts of the page.